On February 19, 2018, Tormny Pickles tweeted, Black Panther was a fine movie, but its politics were a bit iffy. Would have been way better if at the end Black Panther turned to the camera and said, I am a communist now, and then specified he's the exact kind of communist I am. This is the Museum of Twitter, the show where we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. I think that this is one of the most vital tweets in terms of film Twitter discourse. And not just specifically for Black Panther, although the reason I'm doing this tweet now is because today, in the year 2025, I saw someone else relitigating the politics of Black Panther. Not that I don't think that the movie's politics are interesting to talk about. I think it is very interesting to talk about how a big corporate movie plays with revolutionary themes, how it kind of sells out its revolutionary character. I think that those are interesting things to discuss, but we've had this conversation many, many times. And I can tell you that we've had this conversation many, many times because this tweet from Tormny Pickles came out on February 19, 2018, and the movie Black Panther was released on February 16, 2018. So the fact that a tweet mocking the discourse about the movie Black Panther was already made 3 days after the movie came out tells you that ever since the movie came out, there have been dumb discussions about it. And I'm fine having a discussion about it. I've had discussions about it on my podcast, Marvel Cinematic University, where I talk about Marvel movies, but it's also not really a discussion I want to have with randos on Twitter. Because honestly, a lot of people don't know how to responsibly have a conversation about the politics of any piece of media without being annoying. And I think a thing that this Tormny Pickles tweet gets at is that trying to simplify it down to good or bad, a movie having good or bad politics, a movie having my politics or not my politics, is really stupid. And Tormny Pickles has made multiple clarifications of what he meant by this tweet, and one of them he says that it's mainly a joke about how it would be funny if the suggestion to fix the political failings would be some ham-fisted over-insertion of correct politics. Later he added, this is my most annoying tweet because people refer to it whenever someone does any cultural analysis of a movie, noting the sort of politics a movie espouses or takes for granted is good and fun. What's obnoxious is when people say a movie is only good if the characters are good. And I think that that's really at the heart of what this tweet is mocking and when I think it's most appropriately used. I think it's vitally important for us to discuss the politics and cultural messages of our big pieces of media, but if you can't get past this is bad because it does not share my views or it doesn't share the views I wish it did, then you're not really doing cultural analysis, you're just being annoying. Or more accurately, you're just pushing your own political agenda without actually engaging with the media. And I think the end bit of then specified he's the exact kind of communist I am is really important because what it's getting at is that a lot of these complaints people have are not even like big ones. It's not like this has a right-wing agenda or this has a fascist agenda. It's like this has an agenda that's slightly less left-wing than mine. In the reply, someone responded, Tanky Panther, and Tormny Pickles responded, I am Black Panther, specifically vaguely socialist DSA Panther. Me. No, that is not far enough. And look, I know I'm probably going overboard for this, but I just want to emphasize as strongly as I can. I am not saying that you should not be allowed to and you should not be encouraged to criticize the politics of major movies like Black Panther. But you should be observing and critiquing and discussing how it reflects the larger world. You shouldn't be using it as a litmus test of whether or not a movie is good. And you definitely should not be using it as a litmus test of whether or not a person has good politics if they enjoy a movie. Like, I think it's valid to say that the movie sells out the Killmonger character and that they sell out some of his revolutionary ideas. But I think to then say, and that's why it's a bad movie, and if you think it's a good movie, then you're not serious about politics or whatever, like that, you're being stupid. I think the reason why people like Jonathan said that this is the single greatest distillation of how political accounts react to movies on here is because it feels like people are treating movies as a way to reify their own politics, that they turn to movies to see their politics reflected back at them. And that's not bad if it happens, but like, come on. That's just an exhausting way to consume movies and TV shows. And I think the reason why this is so annoying is because while all art is political, most art is not just political. Yes, Black Panther does have some political stuff in it. It does gesture to political stuff. It has some overt political messages. But it also is a superhero story with heroes and villains and jokes and other things. Sam did a copy and paste of Tormny Pickles' tweet about Barbie because a lot of the same discourse happened there, where there was backlash to people talking about how feminist it was, basically being like, this is not the right type of feminism, yada yada yada. And I think that that is a fair critique to make if you want to make it. And I've read critiques like that, and I think they're usually spot on, and I think they make a lot of good points. But I think if you would end a critique like that with, and the movie would be better if it was explicitly more about this type of feminism in the last act, that just feels disingenuous. And it feels like you're not engaging with the art on its terms. Because a movie does not have a responsibility to have the politics you want it to have. And that's why this tweet is referenced all the time. In 2024, Jordan Miner quote tweeted and said, Civil War discourse be like. Because if there ever was a movie where people were arguing about how good or bad the politics were, it was Civil War. No, I think part of the problem with that is that the movie doesn't really have politics at all. And Alex Garland couldn't shut up about how the movie didn't have politics at all. And so like that made it ripe for this type of discussion, but still. When Noah Colwyn said that his reaction to Dune 2 was wanting to disappear completely into his seat at the sight of Timmy C DC leading Muslim-coded freedom fighters against imperial forces before an enraptured audience. Nicholas Grossman quoted this and said, it would have been way better if Dune turned to the camera and said, I am a decolonizer now, and then specified he's the exact type of decolonizer I am. When there's one person went on this whole rant about how The Bear is not actually a good show because it's about characters interacting with capitalism and there should be characters that exist outside of capitalism. I don't know, this is a dumb discourse. Joy said The Bear is a fine show, but its politics are a bit iffy, ... Samantha Barber says that this tweet is what she thinks about whenever she hears someone complain about Across the Spider-Verse being propaganda. I think this is a good example because while you can argue that any piece of media that has cops presented in a positive light is propaganda, I think it's just being ignorant of the politics of, like, regular everyday people to think that major movies are not going to have cops as normal characters. Like, I'm sorry, Sony Animation Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is not going to have Miles turn to camera and say, my dad is a bastard because he's a cop. And that's the thing that frustrates me so much about tweets that mimic the Tormey Pickles tweet, is it's like, if you have politics that you know are not mainstream, that's fine. I have politics that I know aren't mainstream. But I don't walk into mainstream pieces of art and then get mad that they reflect mostly mainstream politics that I don't have. And I think this tweet that was juxtaposed with the Tormey Pickles tweet is a really good illustration of the whole problem here. The user is cut off, but it says, Knives Out, Glass Onion, The Menu, all in the same mid-tier, vaguely anti-rich without saying anything revolutionary cinematic universe. I think that this sums up what's so annoying about this. It's like, who said that any of these movies were, like, trying to say anything revolutionary? To me, it feels like you're flattening art in the name of politics if you're basically saying, Rian Johnson, you can't make a fun mystery movie with some light jabs at rich people. It has to be a revolutionary text if you're going to involve rich people. Or saying to the writers of The Menu, you're not allowed to make a comedy thriller making fun of snobby foodie types. If you're not advocating for a class revolution, you're evil. Like, I know they don't go that far, but that's the tone in my opinion. And the last example I have is actually another one from Nicholas Grossman. I didn't realize that I used two examples from him until I was putting this together, but it was in response to the Jacobin review of Oppenheimer, which basically says that they paper over the darker sides of J. Robert Oppenheimer's life in order to make a crowd-pleasing spectacle. Now, I would disagree with that. I would say that the movie definitely doesn't do that, but whatever. And Nicholas Grossman says that it was a fine movie, but it'd be better if at the end Oppenheimer turned to the camera and said, I'm anti-American now, and then specified he's the exact kind of anti-American I am. And I think the aspect that this review and the response to it nailed down perfectly is that you are really robbing an artist of saying what they want to say if they need to have perfect politics to do it. Like, yes, I think you do have some responsibilities if you want to tell certain types of stories, particularly if you tell real life stories, but I don't feel like you are responsible to have to cover your bases and having perfect politics in every way. Like, Christopher Nolan is allowed to have a different take and want to present Oppenheimer in a different way than a writer at Jacobin would. It feels like this type of critique is really myopic because it assumes that no one else has genuine politics and that you must be being dishonest or being a bad artist if your politics don't align with the person who's watching. Also, I just don't know how you could watch that movie and write the headline, The Martyrdom of Saint Oppenheimer. Like, I think that Christopher Nolan has a lot of feelings about J. Robert Oppenheimer, and I don't think any of them are that he's a saint. Maybe this Jacobin writer would have gotten it if he turned to camera and said, I am not a saint, and the writer of this movie doesn't think so. Follow me for a new tweet every day, and consider joining my Patreon, patreon.com/Museum of Twitter. We get the weekly Museum of Knots, where you can vote on what I cover on Subscriber Sundays. And also, this Saturday, I am doing an 18-hour live stream to raise money for the Trevor Project. Please donate now and send your receipt to museumoftwitter@gmail.com, where you'll be entered to win prizes, including signed copies of books, signed copies of tweets, lots of fun stuff. And you're like, should I donate? Yes, I'm talking to you. Throw like $5, $10. I promise will make you feel better, and it will make the lives of LGBTQ youth a lot better too.